Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/ProRevenge. The OP in our first story is not a person to argue with about his salary. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Cut my pay? Fine by me. I worked at a Fortune 500 company for 12 years and got laid off several years ago and hired back as a contract. I had a lot of value because of my skill set and my tribal knowledge. Being contract instead of actual staff means a pay cut, way more expensive health insurance, no PTO at all, no sick or vacation time, all holidays off work or unpaid, and no bonuses like corporate employees get. Asked for a raise a while back, got laid off because I was uppity. WTF. Per my lead, I was his best employee. Anyway, get another contract job for the same company, work there a year, get a raise because I wrote a bunch of sweet code. Then, right as I'm hitting a 2-year anniversary in this department and hoping to ask for another raise, COVID hits. We start working from home. It's gravy. Well, the company decides to cut contract pay, but give corporate employees a raise. WTF. So now I work half days and charge for full time. And our second story. Say goodbye to your job, your house, and your mistress. My mom has been best friends with Eileen since they were both kids, and Eileen has been kind of like an aunt to me. About 5 years ago, Eileen's husband of more than 25 years surprised her by asking for a divorce. Eileen lived about 6 hours away from my mom at the time, and I lived out of state, so I didn't find out how everything went down until a few months after their divorce was finalized. Unfortunately, Eileen's life kind of spiraled out of control after the separation/divorce. She developed depression and a drinking problem, but my mom and some other childhood friends were able to convince her to move back to her hometown. Then they convinced her to go to rehab. I moved back home shortly before Eileen went to rehab, and because my school/work schedule is pretty flexible, I was able to house sit and take care of some stuff while she was in rehab. The first time I visited her in rehab, I got the whole divorce story, and it was bad. Eileen's ex, Jeff, hadn't talked to Eileen about any problems prior to asking for a divorce, so she just assumed he fell out of love with her. But I was immediately skeptical about the things Eileen told me. First, Jeff, who was an executive at a pharmaceutical company earning mid-six figures, was fired from his job a year before they split up and decided to take a break before looking for another job. It was weird to me that Jeff decided to take a break from work because he'd always been such a workaholic. Eileen hasn't worked in years because of a disability, but she has some property and a trust her parents left her that lets her live a comfortable life without working. Jeff and Eileen lived off money from the trust while he was unemployed. Then after Jeff said he wanted a divorce, he refused to go to couples therapy or talk about why he wanted a divorce. The only thing he'd say was that they'd grown apart and he was sick of being with a woman like Eileen. He said Eileen's mother was right about her. Eileen's mother was a classic narcissist, and she bullied Eileen horribly about her attractiveness, weight, intelligence, etc., which caused a lot of psychological problems that Jeff knows about. Finally, right after the divorce was finalized, Jeff moved out of state, but to a state he didn't have any family or connections in. The investigation. Then Eileen asked me to look for a box of Jeff's stuff he'd asked her to hold for him until he moved into his new apartment. She told me all the info on the box, contents, and his new address was in an email he'd sent her, and she gave me the password to her computer so I could access the email. This is where I lucked out. Turns out Jeff had used her computer and set up his email on the computer. I accidentally clicked on the app for his email when I was searching for Eileen's email. I decided to take a peek at his email. The first thing I noticed was that he'd mostly stopped using that email address 3 years before, which was about 1 year before he was fired. In a folder for digital receipts, I found a confirmation email for a dating site, either POF or Match, I can't remember which I think he saved there accidentally. I also found a verification email for a new email address. I started to put together a speculative timeline of what had happened. I guessed that about 3 years before, Jeff started an affair, and shortly after, he decided to get a new email address to help keep the affair secret. I thought I might be able to get into Jeff's new email using his old email to reset the password, and then maybe I could use the new email to get into the dating website. But I didn't want to risk locking Jeff out of his new email and alerting him until I knew more about what he'd done. And here's where I totally lucked out. The email app Jeff downloaded to Eileen's MacBook had a note feature, and super genius Jeff saved some passwords on notes. Most of the passwords weren't helpful, but I did get the password to the dating site and his Twitter and Netflix accounts. I logged into the dating site using his new email address and the password. I was able to read messages Jeff sent to another woman before he broke up with Eileen. The new mistress sent Jeff her email address in one of the messages. I searched Facebook for the mistress's email address and found her profile. I couldn't read the mistress's posts, but she left photos public. She had recent photos of her and Jeff, so I knew they were still together. She also posted a photo of a construction crew breaking ground on a new home for her and Jeff, which was interesting because I got the impression from Eileen that Jeff didn't have a lot of money after the divorce. Here's where my background is important. At the time, I was attending law school. I moved back to my hometown for one semester for a legal residency, and I had access to Lexis database, specifically their public records database. I'd spent a good portion of one of my summer internships tracking down property records and other assets to help recover judgments for clients, so I knew how to search for public records. The mistress had purchased several acres in a wealthy suburb several months before Jeff filed for divorce, and there was no mortgage listed on the record. I'd already found the mistress's LinkedIn page, so I knew she worked as an executive assistant before she moved out of state with Jeff. She didn't advertise her salary, but I doubted she could have afforded the property with her salary alone. It's possible she had money outside her salary, but I suspected Jeff gave her money to purchase the land before he filed for divorce. I also found an updated record in Lexis showing Jeff and the mistress as joint owners of the property. I called the county recorder office to confirm ownership of the property, dates, etc. The mistress had filed a quitclaim just 5 weeks after Jeff's divorce was finalized. His new email was a gold mine. Jeff hadn't been fired from his old job. He quit and lied to Eileen. I found an email from his admin asking where to have payroll send his last check and details about a goodbye party for him. Some emails between Jeff and a boat repair person mentioning a leak somewhere on one side of the sailboat near the engine compartment. The repair guy couldn't find the source of the leak, but talked about current and future problems with mold and the engine on that side. Emails between Jeff and a boat broker, which included the email address of buyers farther down in the string. An emailed report from the boat inspector, which didn't include the leak or any mold damage or potential damage to the engine. Emails between Jeff and his contractor about changes made to the new house's sunroom, something about a 3-season sunroom versus a 4-season sunroom, and the construction needing to be modified to deal with the weight of snow. Emails between Jeff and the mistress, they had married. The mistress/Jeff shared a calendar. Some flirty emails between Jeff and another woman. Emails with info on Jeff's new employer. I downloaded all the important emails and their attachments and started thinking about a revenge plan. Revenge. To my mind, everything was fair game. He lied about being fired, so I wanted him fired from his new job. I suspected he hid money before his separation from Eileen to help pay for his new house, so I wanted him to lose his house. He cheated, so I wanted to destroy his new relationship. Anything I could do about the boat was a bonus. The easiest place to start was the boat. I had no idea if the source of the leak was found and repaired, or if the leak was verbally disclosed to the buyer. But I figured Jeff was a lying jerk, so odds were fair he hid the info from the new buyer. I sent the emails between Jeff and the repairman and another copy of the inspection to the buyer. I searched Jeff's county court website 5 or 6 months later and found out the buyers filed suit against Jeff and the broker and inspector. I couldn't figure out how to take or destroy Jeff's house, so I settled for contacting the county inspector's office to complain about the sunroom not being up to code. The workshop had a bathroom that the contractor attached to the property's septic system after the initial inspection. Jeff had to pay a fine, and the workshop had to be removed. This ended up causing construction delays, which will become relevant below. As for destroying Jeff's marriage, my first impulse was to send the new wife the flirty emails between Jeff and the other woman, but when I searched for that woman on social media, I couldn't find anything. I couldn't come up with a way to get Jeff fired. I rechecked his email and calendar over several weeks, looking for something I could use to get him fired. Eventually, my legal residency got too busy to devote much time to revenge, so I decided to just let it go. Eileen recently reconnected with a friend she shared with Jeff, and that friend gave Eileen an update on Jeff. Eileen shared the details with me. It turned out that I didn't need to worry about sabotaging Jeff's career. By luck, the woman Jeff had been emailing was actually his assistant at his new job, and Jeff's new boss was his brother-in-law. Jeff and his new wife actually moved to her hometown so she could be close to her family, and so Jeff could go to work for his new brother-in-law. I have no idea if Jeff actually was cheating. He told the mutual friend that passed the story on to Eileen that they hadn't been having an affair. Didn't matter to his new wife, though, because she and Jeff got together when Jeff was already married. She didn't have a lot of trust for Jeff. She didn't believe Jeff's denials, and when I sent the email about him having an affair, she filed for divorce, and Jeff's brother-in-law boss fired him. And since the construction was delayed, the new house wasn't finished when Jeff and the new wife divorced. They had to sell an unfinished home, and Jeff took a big financial hit. I wish I had a friend like you looking out for me. And our next story. Karen from Hell's Pool. English is not my first language. My parents died early from cancer. Back in the 80s, I got a huge plot of land by a lake with an old but still 2-story, 4-bedroom house. I moved there with my family. When my wife's sister found out about it, she began to come to me and complain that she didn't have enough money to buy their land and build a house near the lake. She said it was her dream that her sisters should help each other and blah, blah, blah. Eventually, I got tired of it all and gave her a little piece of land for a house on the edge of my property. While it was being built, and even for a year when Karen moved in, everything was fine and quiet. But after a year, something drastically changed. Maybe Karen bumped her head or something? They built a 2-meter fence to separate us from the house and stopped greeting us. Okay, I'm just happy to get some peace of mind from Karen. I finally got my quiet. After about a year, I saved up some money and decided to build a pool near my house that we could swim in while the lake is still cool. The building was finished pretty quickly, and at the same moment, Karen started saying hello to me and my wife again. Then one Wednesday, Karen, "Hi, I saw you have a new pool, and I need to have a party with my friends because you'll be working on Thursday and I'd love to use it." "Oh, hi, Karen. I think you built your fence too big and it'd be hard to get over, so guess not." Thursday evening after work, I found out someone was using my pool. I asked Karen and she said she didn't know what I was talking about. So next time I poured 6 times the chemical to clean it and drove to work. That was the last night Karen used my pool. Thanks for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.